Well, welcome to part 3, Straight Shoot News, new series, episode 1, The Political Pendulum. Swings with hypnotic effect, left to right, right to left. Our rights are eroded away. So in part 3, we're going to cover an agenda. This agenda is about the 15-minute series, but it's really about biodiversity. I'll explain more about that. So you can see how they're causing issues in the first segment about the FTX, and they're going to move us to global currency, all for our own good. And we covered Trump, the America First man, who believes in the sovereignty of nations, and actually, he's probably been the most constitutional president I've seen in my lifetime. But people want to hate him, go right ahead. Still a free country for now. So, but let's move into this segment here. Like all these agendas for the greater good, they just keep coming up about the greater good. Everybody's out for the greater good. The greater good for who? Who? So these 15-minute cities, I mean, they're not what you think. They're going to definitely bring power and control to your daily affairs. And it's coming to a community. And may have already started taking place. You got to take a look around. When you listen to the video and see what you hear. But let me give you some thoughts on this before we start. Following the Earth Summit back in the 1990s, good old UN. That was everybody's enemy, and there were so many others like Klaus Schwab, which is World Economic Forum, and others working in the background. You know, there was this thing that popped up called biodiversity zones. I got a lot of American Patriots caught them right up. I said, well, wait a minute, what's this all about? I mean, so a lot of American Patriots started making videos, copying them, handing them out to everybody to caution everybody about these biodiversity zones they want to create. I was one of them. So, you know, the thought of like some of the most beautiful, majestic places in our nation and the world being deemed as no-go zones for human beings didn't sit well with me. And after I personally experienced so many of them as possible at that time, it caught my attention. And we also know somebody says it's no-go zones for human beings. They want to keep them pristine for the planet's sake. That the people making the rules, we're not following their own rules. They just don't want you in those places. Now, the idea that the rest of us would have to sit back and, no, it didn't sit well. So the difference now is what we're looking at. A new ideas come out, just like everything else. They're going to make it sound like this is going to be so beautiful for you. And you're going to be doing the work of the greater good. To the point where they're going to create these 15-minute cities where we'll have everything we could ever want or need right at our disposal. We won't even have to travel, and that'll save the planet. So I got a question for you. How do you feel about your right to roam? Your right to roam, your freedom. It's all in here. Many people refer to it as the right to movement. For those of you who don't understand what's currently taking place, just look at the COP27 meetings in Egypt right now. Look at the Paris Climate Change Accord. Then you want to research this topic deeper about the 15-minute city. How they would deceive you into believing that your freedoms to venture out into the world are selfish and unnecessary. You can live a full life and a rewarding life without doing so. The American way of adventurism is under attack in order for the tyrants to control us all. So let me read a little bit of a blip about what the 15 minutes cities are all about. Then we're going to play you some video and how nice it's going to be from a place where they've actually implemented in England. But the 15-minute city, what are they and how to build them? This is just a portion of this article, of course. If you're an urbanite, how long does it take you to get to the supermarket? What about a public park, pharmacist, primary school? For proponents of the 15-minute city planning concept, the answer to all those questions should be less than 15 minutes. And doesn't that sound nice and convenient? So it says, on a first glance, the concept is very simple: to create neighborhoods and cities where each person can meet a host of all their basic needs by a short walk or a bike ride. How many bicycle paths are they putting in? Oh, this is going to be great. And larger cities will also be moved towards a lot more public transit. Exactly what defines short varies from place to place, they claim. In the study, they took 543 urban areas. They took the USA's largest 500 cities and all 43 urban areas of New Zealand. The amenities they used were the pharmacy, supermarkets, primary schools, chosen based data on availability and alignment with the established planning policies that create health promoting cities. Doesn't that sound wonderful? It's going to be health promoting cities. These are going to be healthy for you. Dr. Thomas Logan wrote in his conversation, the greater aim should be to improve accessibility as much as possible, to reduce our dependency on cars, reclaim our neighborhoods for the people, and this will benefit health, sustainability, and communities. All you got to do is be willing to live in what is probably considered today's the biodiversity zone. Surrender your right to travel and movement. But it's going to be great. So the main word in all this, what you're going to hear is schemes. And you're going to hear these schemes in your own neighborhood. You're going to hear terms like mixed use, psychopath, environmentally friendly, biodiversity, equity. You're going to set up funds, control local zoning, and convince people to accept the scheme. You ready? Let's roll the first segment of this.
So the idea of the 15-minute city has been hailed as one of the outstanding architectural contributions to human development. And it's already being looked at, being implemented in cities across the globe, from Paris to Portland to Milan. All of that, I thought it might be helpful if we actually defined what a 15-minute city is and maybe talked a little bit about why it's important. So, boom, start us off.
So it's really about focusing neighbourhoods and communities around cycling and walking, as far as I can tell, and moving away from the idea of car domination, and really providing the basic fundamental needs of what you need to live, to work, and I guess thrive as a community within 15 minutes of where you live.
I think here in Millennium Communities Initiative that came in around 2000, and it's got a park, it's got school, it's got local commercial amenities, it's got residential, and actually recognising the journey that New Islington has been on, I think it's been a pretty phenomenal success, and it has been founded on those very principles of the 20-minute neighbourhood, the compact neighbourhood, taking nothing away from Carlos Moreno and the fact that from 2016 it's been captured in this sort of phrase or terminology which has made it much more accessible.
The 15-minute city is so important, it really is. I think in terms of creating economic and environmentally resilient spaces, really putting green and blue infrastructure at the heart of the walking and cycling networks that you mentioned. It's more sustainable, it's more compact, it's more connected, greater density of development, minimising car journeys, reducing carbon emissions. It's all, fundamentally what we have to do.
Economic productivity is really important to levelling up. And a thing that struck me moving back to the northwest only just recently is like the amount of time that's spent in transit for people, and it's economically not that productive. So I think these principles about making sure you can access work and amenity within a short time frame via public transport or cycling or walking is really important foundation for economic productivity.
It's about having good access to day-to-day things in your local neighbourhood, but also about having then good public transport links to other places.
As we move away from the car, what do we do with these streets? And that's where you have an opportunity to create excellent cycle highways, but also more green space. So if you've got existing spaces in the cities which are lacking green and you don't have, as I said, the space to utilise to create new parks, can we look at these linear parks and boulevards and building on the Paris model there, I suppose. And then that ties into healthier spaces for people and ultimately creating somewhere where people have a better quality of life.
We're accommodating movement by means of private vehicles in particular. That's pretty space hungry. And actually, if we can start to tighten up on the space that has been allocated to that, it then liberates significant portions of space for other things.
I was looking at the statistics. It's something like 2/3 of all trips are made by car. A quarter of those trips are like under 1 mile. So, as you say, the resources and the land that can free up moving to this kind of concept of removing those car journeys is, I think, quite immense. And again, in terms of that sort of collectivism, equity, all that kind of stuff is a good thing for society.
I think there's an argument that people would say, well, I don't have the local services on my doorstep, I don't have the green space on my doorstep, therefore I need the car to get to somewhere that does. So I think it's a little bit chicken and egg. If you had greater investment within towns, within smaller cities, you'd have more of that kind of willingness to consider giving up the car. I'd say people in city centres, living in city centres, probably don't have a car anyway, perhaps. And maybe Ancoats, in terms of the community, there'd be less concern around having a more walkable environment.
I think.
Well, are you getting the point? They're space-consuming cars. Needing to travel, you could be very content, like I said at the beginning, just living in your little area. I mean, you're going to surrender your car for the environment. How dare you want to travel in your own private car? I mean, the American spirit has always been based on having the freedom to roam and experience the beauty of the countryside and things we have to offer. Maybe some people don't want to see it. These people sound like they're going to be really content. Everything you want is going to be right there. Yay, I'm going to be happy. As you move forward and we play melodious ready for it, keep one thing in mind. Pink Floyd put out a song years ago. Oh, probably 40 or more years ago. they made a point, and they said, all that you touch and all that you see is all your life will ever be. So I guess if these people are content with just going to work, doing what they got to do every day, being content, be a good little member of society, that's their choice. I mean, they want to live in a city. Good luck. But what about America? And people who don't want to be piled on top of each other in the city and want to breathe. Let's continue on.
Around that sort of 15-20 minute neighbourhood concept, bring more residential back into the towns, more of a mix of uses. I mean, Altrincham, where I live, has invested a lot in local services, so it's brought, GP surgeries, health wellbeing, library, new hospital, all of those things back into the town centre, or redevelop them. And so you have all those things on your doorstep, but you still have really good access into the city centre. And I think that's a huge opportunity for all of our towns, which have all been struggling over the last 10, 20 years.
I think it's important for different locations to provide an offer that means that people don't have to make those unnecessary journeys that you talk about to go and get a pint of milk or whatever. But it's also important that places have their own identity and there's connectivity that bring new people into the area, because that does help with social cohesion and things like that.
I think going on that, there's always a benefit in terms of, there's always a district centre, usually sometimes around a train station or even a bus station or something like that. And I think the more you can do to accelerate that into being somewhere where people want to be, because that's already there. There'll always be a village hall or something like that. The more we can push that, I think the more it will push that idea that somebody might want to leave their bike at the station rather than leaving their bike driving all the way down the A56 to some little cones. I think it's sort of working with what we've got to then move that paradigm shift the right way.
How do we ensure that these don't become insulated, neighbourhoods just for the wealthy?
Well, as a local authority person, obviously kind of equity is kind of a pretty important principle, and certainly I think providing spaces for kind of events, things people can participate in that don't require lots of cash. The opportunity to attend a festival or an event that's either cheap or doesn't have a charge, that gives people the opportunity to participate in their community and be part of something in their community. So we put what goes on in the community as a really important factor. It's not just about buying things in town centres.
I think the 15-minute cities are kind of a way of offering social cohesion. The narrative has to be community focused and community driven to understand what existing communities are there, their issues, the constraints of the sites, those kind of things. And only then can we really design fully inclusive spaces where you do have affordable housing and also better access to green space, to open space.
It's not about mobility necessarily, it's about access, and the idea that in the broader sense, these are spaces which are accessible and affordable for everybody. To create this, this idea that everyone from whatever walk of life you come from, whether you're poor or rich or educated or not, you can be in one of these spaces. Coates is about the gentrification of it all, and from a regeneration perspective, we need to sort of be trying to achieve this concept in a way which supports existing communities and gives them a sense of ownership.
I often think we still perhaps don't promote the value of living within what we call the 15-minute communities in terms of it's something that offers you a good lifestyle. When I'm looking for a house, the size of the bloody kitchen, or whether it's got a kind of a lawn where the kids can play on swings, and how big the spare bedroom for a visiting auntie is utterly secondary.
What is one thing we can be doing to enable a 15-minute city?
We can only do what's in the red line that Nick talked about. So I think the politics of large-scale public sector intervention into public transport is expensive and time-consuming. What we can do, the development community, I think, is try and lay some of the foundations to make the politics a bit easier in the future. So things like improving amenity for cyclists, small scale intervention, but that something's very important, so you feel a bit more encouraged to take your chances down the A56. And I think that.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's a lot there. Think about this. I was just taking some notes, listen to it again. You know, that mixed use deal they're talking about. Well, they just passed that in my town. Everything they're proposing is trying to turn the town into a city. People are out there objecting about it. They're changing local zoning bylaws. We have affordable housing that's being forced on us by the state. And it's not really affordable. They make it sound like, oh, it'd be great. You won't need much money. You know? Oh, who needs a house? We'll have green space. It'll be all inclusive. You can be part of the community. We can have festivals in the middle of town. Well, who's going to choose what kind of festivals they're going to be? What happens if there's a great festival you want to go to, then you need a car to drive over to another community? Oh, no, cars just take up space. I mean, it's going to be such a great lifestyle. Just, you can't roam anywhere else. A 15-minute city. You got any more left on that? Yeah, roll it.
Intervention, but that something's very important, so you feel a bit more encouraged to take your chances down the A56. And I think that's, we need to raise the bar on that, really, the development community. I think we could do better.
From a landscape community, landscape profession, I think we need to do better as well. I think that we need to bang on about key principles for each scheme that we deliver on. I think we really need to push clients, whether they're local councils or developers, really extol the virtues of landscape and good landscape architecture, good urban design, placemaking, networks of GBI and climate change resilience. Fundamental.
From my perspective as a developer, the really important part is then the collaboration, the partnership, and working out how we can achieve things beyond a red line, making the use of the different skills, resources, powers that the different organisations have, public and private sector, because that's how we're going to achieve this on that strategic scale.
I think if government could create a biodiversity fund at scale, devolved to mayoral combined authorities, where when I've got big redevelopment schemes which are under constant pressure because of mass inflation across the built environment sector, that could come in and put specific features in that are ring-fenced to deliver, because at the moment, I'm clinging on to as much of the green infrastructure we've put in our levelling up bids, our town centre projects, but the cost pressures are just constant at the moment, and you don't want to lose them, but ultimately, they can become sitting ducks. And I think if you invest the right level and in the right level of biodiversity from the start on schemes, they will stand the test of time. But I think it would make a significant difference to schemes if we had some actual subsidy money to help deliver biodiversity.
I think from a local government perspective, it's clarity, I think. So one of the things that we can do is perhaps be a bit clearer with our planning policies, zoning policies, to encourage this development which people are saying that they want, the clients want it, so I think that's beholden on us, and basing it around things like energy efficiency and being clear on how we want the homes of the future to be built, I think is a key thing for local government.
Local government telling you what kind of homes you can build. Developers partnership with the community. The BioDiversity Fund. I believe we just passed that where I live a couple of years ago. They call it the CPA tax. You will pay for it. They are coming for your wallet to destroy your way of life and your freedom. The main word, like I said at the beginning, is schemes. Schemes for biodiversity. Expensive, so set up local funding. Yes, but everybody who's going to be doing it, they're going to get their cut. They're going to be part of different communities, controlling everything. Have you noticed areas that you travel to, or maybe you even live in, are going this route? So it's saying that it's decision time. There's people all over the place that have an agenda. That's why they need to control you, like I showed you in the first segment. They need to cause a crisis. The government will resolve it. Why they're letting all these people in the country? Oh, they all need places to live now. So we'll just build more housing. We'll stack people on top of each other, on top of it. See, the difference with me and where I live now is I grew up in a city. We were all stacked on top of each other. So I understand what you're talking about. Which is why, if you work hard enough, you can achieve what was once called the American dream. You can own a house. They talked in the video how you have nice parks for kids on swing sets. Everything sounds so nice. Yes, you can still have parks. But the American dream was to always own a house, raise a family, have some space around you, get out of the city. Now, the people who had that already have no idea what they're giving up. So every agenda from control of your money, control of what you eat, control of what you do, control of your movement. There's all these plans. This is why we put this at the end. There's all these plans. We're going to save the planet. Really? Okay. What? From moving through the universe into a whole new solar system like it's doing right now? From the polar changes that come every so many centuries, or so many years to change the climate in different parts. I believe Greenland, which is frozen over all the time, most of the time, was once Greenland. It's going to save you from flares coming from the sun. We're being played. Like we said at the beginning, here's your defense. You have the right to live the way you want, not to be forced into situations that you don't want. From the pendulum swinging right to left, left to right. And you become hypnotized. And you may find that at one point in your life, you may enjoy the city life, but then you may want to move on. There's a space around you because all that you touch, all that you see is all your life will ever be. Keep that in mind and have a good night. Hope you enjoyed our first episode and our segments of the political pendulum. With that, for Straight Shooting News, my name's Ed Van Dien. Have a good night.